Hello, everybody. Now it's time to look at the third and final film of the animated Tolkien trilogy, as I like to call it, with The Return of the King. Now, The Return of the King is done in a different animation style, unlike Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings here. It's done in the same style as The Hobbit, made by the same duo, the late Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass. As you can see there. Hold on a second. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I'm still messing with the focus on the camera here. So yeah, The Return of the King, it does kind of feel bittersweet to finally see the final chapter of the trilogy finally get a feature-length movie after Ralph Bakshi, unfortunately, only was able to tell the first two books of the trilogy in his movie because, well, like I said in my video, he didn't have the finances to do The Return of the King, so Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass were able to do Return of the King. Now, this one, like I said, is kind of bittersweet to finally see come to fruition because it's the animation style being different from the previous film. It's a little hard to, kind of hard to swallow because they are so different and it's almost disconnecting almost. But it does kind of pick up sort of where the two towers left off with Frodo and Sam making their way closer to Mount Doom and Mordor to destroy the One Ring. But the odd thing is, it does not act like a sequel to The Lord of the Rings. It acts more like a sequel to The Hobbit. Because again, both were directed by the same filmmakers, and they both have the same animation style. But nonetheless, though, I still have to give the filmmakers credit for finally giving us sort of like, basically a conclusion almost to the epic saga, literally. But nonetheless, unfortunately, like with the animated Lord of the Rings, I saw this after I saw the live-action Return of the King. And yeah, it did feel underwhelming. Very underwhelming. And runs at 97 minutes, basically. Yeah, it's a bit lengthier than a little lengthier than The Hobbit, but nonetheless, yeah, sorry, messing with the focus again. But nonetheless, I still give it the benefit of the doubt. So that's really all I have much to say about the movie. Basically, it's and not to mention the some of the voice actors. I mean, they bring back Orson Bean to voice not just the older Bilbo, but they also have him voicing Frodo. And Roddy McDowall is the voice of Samwise. And it was kind of hard to figure. And John Huston returns to voice Gandalf and many of the others. So before I talk about the DVD specs, I want to talk here about this cover. Now, I'm not going to lie, The Return of the King this is a very beautiful cover art for the movie. The illustration's amazing. But I want to point out a few critical errors here. First of all, nowhere in the movie do dwarves even appear. You know what the sad thing is? The only other character from the Fellowship besides the four hobbits and Gandalf, the only other one that appears is Aragorn. Gimli and Legolas are nowhere to be found, which I don't know why. I mean, as I said, this is acting like a sequel to The Lord of the Rings, the first two books, that is, and yet they literally cut out some crucial characters from the story out of this one, so it's kind of... And also, there's a dragon on the cover, and it sort of looks similar to the dragon on the cover of the DVD for The Hobbit. Well, no, almost. Yeah, almost. Almost does. But yeah, though nowhere in the movie does Frodo and Sam ride a horse, and the sword that Frodo is holding here on the cover, yeah, nowhere in the movie do you see him wield that. But yeah, the dwarves, they don't appear, but they have sort of like the same animation design like the dwarves in The Hobbit. So I'm guessing Warner Brothers probably made this DVD cover to, pretty much give it sort of like a more adventurous feel like what The Hobbit was. And the two castles in the background, yeah, it's kind of... I don't know why it's like that. I have no idea. I mean, like I said, the art design is beautiful, to say the least. It's very beautiful. But again, most of that you don't even see anywhere in the movie. Nowhere. But yeah, the back, it's got almost the same look as as The Hobbit does with its artwork. That kind of looks similar to the artwork of the back cover of the Hobbit DVD. And yeah, and there's Gollum, which has the same art look as Gollum from The Hobbit. And it's, by the way, voiced by the same actor, which is Theodore, brother Theodore, who sadly passed away in 2001, the year the first the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring came out. So anyway, now I talk about the DVD. Again, it's only available on DVD. There's no Blu-ray currently yet, so or 4K release, so it's just DVD. Again, like The Hobbit, it's a snapper case disc here. As you can see, there's the DVD. You can see me here. Hello. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and it's presented only in standard format. So again, no widescreen because again, it was made for television, just like The Hobbit was, and it's in the standard definition, 1:3:3:1 television ratio, and just like The Hobbit, the Return of the King DVD, the video quality is pretty much this is like a blatant copy of like what The Hobbit is. The pretty much most of the specs I mentioned in The Hobbit are pretty much virtually identical in Return of the King. The video quality on the Return of the King is stunning, to say the least. The animation and detail, you can see a lot of it. The audio, now, yeah, as for the video, I would say out of 5 stars, once again, 4.5, 4.5. So that's what I would say. Now, the audio, I'm not going to rank it as low as The Hobbit because this is actually the first time I ever laid eyes on this movie was on the DVD. So I never watched it. There was no VHS copy for me to look at or anything. So again, I don't know if the DVD had sound effects taken out once again like The Hobbit was, but I would say with Return of the King, the audio is once again presented in mono, 1.0 mono, pretty much. So it's kind of, yeah, once again, it's one of those movies where you'll have to crank the volume up to get the best sound quality out of it. But for the audio this time, out of 5 stars, I would the voice acting and dialogue come out very well. Some of the sound effects are really good. So I'm not going to go too harsh on this one. I would say out of 5 stars, this one would get a 3 for me. A little higher than what The Hobbit got, but still, yeah. As for the bonus features, well, what I mentioned in the Hobbit DVD is pretty much identical here. Tolkien and filmmaker highlights, it's basically a bunch of text information that you can read. And again, you can pretty much brief through all of that in like maybe under a couple of minutes. It's basically like, filmmaker highlights of all the stuff that Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass did, some info about Tolkien himself, and some info about some of the characters and the creatures from Tolkien lore. So yeah, and the movie itself, I would probably give maybe 3.5, 3.5 out of 5. I would rank it higher, but unlike The Hobbit, like I said, I didn't have another film to compare The Hobbit. I didn't have another film to compare The Hobbit to, and the reason why I watched Return of the King and gave it a 3.5 because after watching the live-action version, which I would definitely give a solid 5 for the movie, the animated film feels underwhelming to me. But for many animated fans, I'm sure that it would be nice to, this would be a nice substitute for anybody that hasn't dived into the Peter Jackson films. So if you have kids that are wanting to get into Tolkien, the animated films are definitely worth watching. So that is my review of the animated Tolkien trilogy. Yeah, as you can see, only The Lord of the Rings got a Blu-ray release. All the other, and by the way, The Return of the King, like The Hobbit, also got a remastered deluxe edition DVD by Warner Brothers. And again, like the Hobbit release, it is pretty much identical. The video and audio are both the same, and the only bonus features that they included are just a trio of Looney Tunes cartoons. That's about it. I don't know why, but... And the cartoons on the DVDs both kind of match the medieval fantasy style of the Hobbit and The Return of the King. And it's kind of sad how they both got remastered deluxe edition DVDs, same with Lord of the Rings, but only Lord of the Rings got the Blu-ray. So that's weird. The Return of the King, like I said, if you can find a good copy of it on DVD, I would say give it a look. It's like I said, if you've seen the live action Return of the King, I would not be prepared to be overwhelmed by the animated version. But as I said, at the time, these were the only 3 films made based on Tolkien's work. And they literally blew through 4 books with just 3 movies. And it took Peter Jackson 6 films to do all 4, to do The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and they did it in 3 movies. I have to admit, that's impressive, to say the least. Even though the films do feel underwhelming, and the connection between to Lord of the Rings to Return of the King, it's very disconnecting because of the 2 animation styles. They're way different. They almost feel like entirely different films. But the crazy thing is, The Hobbit, The Return of the King, acts like a sequel to The Hobbit instead of The Lord of the Rings, which it should have been the sequel to, and it is. But at the same time, it acts like a sequel to both movies. So bottom line, Return of the King is again a mixed bag of a DVD. The video quality is stunning. The audio, not as strong, but way better than the audio on The Hobbit. And that's why I gave it a higher ranking. And the movie, like I said, it does get a pass for me because I have to give the benefit of the doubt. This was, at the time, the only film version we got of Return of the King, which at the time I wasn't even aware of, and I'm sure a lot of people aren't even aware of it either. But nonetheless, now hopefully people that watch this video will be well aware that there was an animated Return of the King made. So that concludes this presentation, and also concludes the, I guess you could call it a 3-part video of the animated Tolkien trilogy. So hope you enjoyed it, and to everybody, take care, and next video comes, I'll see you then. Take care.